In today's final and critical day at the Bacardi Cup, 5 teams were in with a chance at the overall title. Everything was at stake, and with only one race scheduled, it was all or nothing. And the tables were certainly turned here in Miami. Yet again, the defending Bacardi Cup team of Xavier Rojar and Serge Pulfer had a great start to windward, and a few meters below them, also with an impressive start, were the Americans George Szabo and Mengus Lilladel. With the conditions very similar to yesterday, soon the fleet started to tack and head for the right side of the track. Rojar and Pulfer followed, keeping a close eye on the series leaders, Graal and Lagoa, who were only a few points ahead on the leaderboard. With the French and the Brazilians focused on each other, it was the Italians Negri and Clean who were able to slip into first place and round first at the windward mark. Right on their tail were Mark Mendelblatt and Brian Fatih, just in front of the other USA boat, Szabo and Lilladel. Mendelblatt and Fatih had to hold on to their place. As with the French and the Brazilians outside the top 5 teams, the series title would be theirs. Now the battle was between Rojar and Graal for second place, and during the downwind, they stayed very close to each other. Meanwhile, Mendelblatt and Fatih were closing in on Negri and Clean and keeping a higher course to try and pass in front. Soon the two boats were neck and neck with each other. The Italians decided to jibe and headed to the right side of the course, a mistake they would regret later, as the Americans gained a significant lead and extended it as they reached the downwind gate. Mendelblatt chose to take the left gate mark, as it had been the left side during the downwind that had rewarded them with the lead. The Italians followed, and right on their tail were the other Brazilian team of Alessandro Pascolato and Henry Boining, who were now in third. The first of the teams to take the right gate mark was Szabo and Lilladel, who had lost several meters, with Brazil's Graal and Lagoa and France's Rojar and Pulfer following close behind. As Szabo and Lilladel and the team of Rojar and Pulfer headed for the right side of the track, Mendelblatt and Fatih had already made up meters from the left side and were in parallel with them, albeit from a safe distance. Mendelblatt and Fatih rounded the windward mark first with more than a 200-meter advantage over the second-place Pascolato and Boining. Going into the second downwind leg, the action was between Brazil's Graal and Lagoa against France's Rojar and Pulfer, in 5th and 6th place respectively, and closing in on the Italians, Negri and Clean. The French decided to sail deeper than anyone else and played their last card, as it was the only way to put some pressure on the Italians, who had no choice but to jibe and cover. However, the game was not over yet, as it was the last race of the Bacardi Cup. The race committee had decided to extend the race and include an extra upwind leg. With Mendelblatt and Fatih rounding far ahead of the others at the gate, the question was, who would take the second and third places? Despite sailing deeper, Rojar and Pulfer did not make any gains and ended up rounding behind Graal and Lagoa, who were holding on to a secure second overall on the Bacardi Cup leaderboard. The gold medal was already decided in the hands of the American pair of Mark Mendelblatt and Brian Fatih, who crossed the finish line in first and claimed the 2013 Bacardi Cup title. A great outcome from Mendelblatt, who has once before won the Bacardi Cup back in 2005. But it was the French that did the impossible and climbed into 4th during this upwind leg, leaving the series leaders going into the day, Graal and Lagoa, back in 7th place. Even with an extraordinary performance like this one, though, it was not enough, and Rojar had missed out on his goal of winning the first event of the Star Sailors League. The two teams ended the series on a tie, with the tie-break advantage going to the Brazilians, as they scored more race wins. Let's hear from the winners.
We managed to just get the thing going better and better as the week went on. The second race wasn't so good for us either. We had a 13th after rounding the weather mark in first, so we were a little disappointed up to that stage. But by the end, we were sailing well together, and our boat speed was great, and we were able to have a great race today. So we're very pleased.
I think we had a very good result, winning 2 races and finishing second overall. So it was a good campaign. We did some mistakes, happens with everyone, but very happy about this very strong result at the end.
Finishing today third, which is a good result at the end. We had some opportunity to win this race, but we couldn't catch those opportunities.
The award ceremony followed right after the winners receiving their trophies. So, first to Mark Mendelblatt and Brian Fatih of the USA, second to Lars Graal and Marco Lagoa of Brazil, and third to Xavier Rohar and Serge Pulfer of France. Don't miss the next stop on the Star Sailors League in Nassau, the Bahamas. Thanks for watching.